Hello, welcome back to the channel. My name is Lizzie and I'm a stay-at-home mom to 4 and I live in a small town in Vermont. And it is in the midst of seed starting season, which is crazy to think about because there's about 18 inches of snow on the ground here, but I have about 2,000 seedlings started in my basement. But today I wanted to share some easy things of how you could get started with seed starting this season if you never have before. I've been seed starting for about 5 years now. Everything I've learned has been through YouTube videos and through trial and error. So I think I can really simplify this for you and give you some good tips and tricks on how to start and then grow from there. Let's get started. We're in the greenhouse today talking about seed starting. Seed starting can seem really intimidating because so many people do it so many different ways. And so I'm just sharing with you the way that I do things and that what has worked for me. I've been seed starting for about 5 years now and have pretty much learned through trial and error. So here's a few things to get you started if you're brand new to seed starting. First off, start small. And I don't so much mean the number of plants as I do the amount of different plants. There's a lot of planning that goes into seed starting, and you have to be able to kind of juggle a few different things at one time. So if you're kind of questioning yourself, that's going to be a lot to have multiple different things going on throughout the next few months. So pick a couple of small things to do. Number 2, start easy. Don't try challenging things. Things like tomatoes, cucumbers, squashes, marigolds, cosmos, echinacea. Those are all great things to start with that are easy to start indoors, easy to plant out. They're pretty straightforward in what you need to do. Things to not start that are not on the beginner level would be things like Lisianthus, a lot of cold season flowers like snapdragons or larkspur or stock. Snapdragons can be simple. I would really not toy around with it if you haven't done seed starting before. I personally would not start zinnias indoors. That's just my preference. You certainly can, and people do and have success with it. I find it grows better just straight from the ground. And then sunflowers. You can start sunflowers indoor and transplant them out. I would not do that as a beginner. I am doing that this year for the first time ever. And so I will let you know how it goes. I'm sure I'll have a video about that, but don't start it at the very beginning. Number 3, know your frost date. This is super easy. Just Google it. Google your zip code plus last frost date. And that is going to tell you when most likely your last frost date is going to be. And that's where you're going to plan all your seed starting from. You're just going to count backwards. So for example, mine is the beginning of May. And so I'm going to take that date. If I'm going to start something that is 6 to 8 weeks before our frost date, which it says on the back of that seed packet, I'm just going to count back 6 to 8 weeks. Now, the way I do things and would suggest you do as well is whatever the seed pack says, it will say start 6 to 8 weeks indoors before your last frost. I add another 2 weeks to that. So if it says 6 to 8 weeks, I actually started 10 weeks early. One reason is because the last frost date is just your very worst case scenario. You will be able to look ahead into the forecast when you're getting closer to your last frost date and potentially be able to plant some things earlier than that. Another reason for that is that it may go bad. It may not work the way you want it to. Things may not germinate or whatever. So if you start something, you go 2 weeks, nothing's germinated because maybe you did something wrong or whatever, you still have time to fix that mistake before it's too late. And so in the end of it, the worst that's going to happen by starting it early is you're going to have bigger plants, but it'll be okay. Also, write it down. Write down the dates that you're supposed to start things. Even if you're only starting 3 or 4 crops the first time, just write it down so you don't forget. I write it on the Monday of each week. I have what I'm supposed to start that week. I don't necessarily start them all on Mondays, but sometime that week, those particular things are going to get started. What setup supplies do you need? You're going to need some type of shelf. This can be any kind of, somewhat stable shelf, okay? So even a plastic shelf or a metal shelf from just the big box retailer. You're going to need grow lights, and I will link those down below, the ones that I use. And I have shelves that are not too deep, so having one grow light at the top is enough, as you can see in this picture that I'm about to show you. But if you have a really deep shelf, you might need 2 grow lights underneath so that everything can have some even light. So it depends on the size of how many grow lights that you need. You're going to need some type of something to put your seeds in. You can get 6 packs from Amazon. I will link those below as well. These are pretty small, so nothing needs to stay inside of here for very long, but it's a good thing to start with. You can also get 50 cell trays as well. Those are available on Amazon. I get mine from Greenhouse Megastore. The thing about Greenhouse Megastore is just that you have to buy a lot to make it be worth it and have a good deal. So you may not want to go that route your first time, but you can go peek around there a little bit and see. Then you're also going to want either some 10-20 trays. Again, search them on Amazon, 10-20 trays that you can purchase, or your budget-friendly inspiration is that you use aluminum pans to put your 6-packs in. I get an 11x14 aluminum pan just from Walmart, and I can fit 10 of these 6-packs in there. And so the reason for the 10-20 tray or the aluminum pan is so that you can bottom water. So you're going to fill that up with water, not all the way, just a little bit, so that they can take a drink from the bottom. And then that is a lot easier than remembering to water once, sometimes twice a day, depending on where you put your seeds. They can get pretty dry. So I would suggest bottom watering and using some type of tray. Yeah, not necessary, but it just helps you a lot. Something else you're going to need is either potting soil or seed starting mix. And this is a question for the ages. Which one do I use? Which one's better? Do you use potting mix or do you use seed starting mix? Well, the answer is yes. I use both of them. So potting mix has a long release fertilizer in it. And so that means that whatever you are starting in that potting mix can stay in there for quite a while, because that fertilizer will keep feeding it for quite a while. Seed starting mix is different. It's fluffier. It doesn't have that fertilizer in it, and it's not meant for long term. It's just meant for a short period of time. Either you're starting something and pretty soon, a few weeks after, going to put it into the ground, or you are going to pot up those things. Potting mix I use for anything that on the back of the seed packet says you can direct sow it into the ground. I use potting soil for that, because frankly, potting soil is cheaper than seed starting mix. I use seed starting mix for the real picky little things, like Lisianthus. I use it for snaps, things that, again, I don't suggest you start as a beginner. So you might want to have some seed mix on hand. The seed starting mix does help it germinate quicker, and it does ensure that those roots are going to be really strong. So if you are a beginner, start with seed starting mix. There's nothing wrong with it, but you can get by with potting soil with those things that I have suggested, like the tomatoes, the peppers, cucumbers, marigolds, those kinds of things. Those will start fine in potting mix. So you really could use either one at this stage as a beginner. I have grown to love seed starting, and I think I love it because I can get my hands dirty before it's really time to put them in the dirt. And it really helps me get through that late winter, early spring here in Vermont. Right now, I'm sitting outside the greenhouse and there is snow right up to here, about 18 inches of it. And so I am able to go down to the basement, get my hands in the dirt, start touching the seeds, start seeing green things, and start thinking about all of that and planning it before I can even do anything months before. I can do anything outside. So another thing I love about seed starting is that I am picking what I want. If you go to a big box retailer, you're going to have to pick out from what they have, and you don't have any options. Whereas for seed starting, you can pick out what varieties of tomatoes you want, what varieties of cucumbers you want, what colors of marigolds you want, whatever the case may be. Whereas that's not an option if you're in a box having to pick out something else that someone else has sown. But have fun with it. Enjoy it. Start a few seeds indoors this year and see if you like it. You can start planning out your garden and getting excited about it. So thank you for watching. If you found this content helpful, I would really appreciate your liking, and I would really appreciate your subscribing, because that tells YouTube, hey, her content is valuable. I'll see you guys next week. Bye.